Have a look at these IP addresses. In the top left, can you find a Class B public IP address? Hey guys, and welcome to this performance-based question for the A+ 220-1201 exam. In this, I'm going to take you through a performance-based question which will take a bunch of different exam objectives, smush them all into the same question where you have to actually copy and paste and drag and place the correct answers into the correct slots after reading a really complicated set of instructions. Now, as we go through this, you might start to find yourself getting a little bit annoyed at the fact that you have to read the instructions, go to the next screen to apply the instructions, and then go back to the instructions and then say, oh, that's what I need to do, and go back to the next screen. And you might be thinking, hey, Matt, why didn't you just make it really easy? Why didn't you just put it all on the same page or on the same slide? The reason is because that's probably not how it's going to be in your exam. On your exam, you may very well face a scenario where you have to read instructions, go to the next page, apply what you remember from what you've read, and then go back and read the next set of instructions. So I'm just getting you ready for the dynamics you may have to face in your exam. Before we get started, I'm going to jump straight into the performance-based question like right now. But just before we do that, there's a link in my description. You can actually download this performance-based question. It comes as a Google Slides document. So you click on the link, say make a copy, and then you'll be able to open this up and actually go through it with me. And I really want you to have an attempt at trying to complete this before you watch me walk you through the process, because it is in that you will really start to feel your brain working and you'll really start to feel like you're actually getting it done. So download it completely 100% free. You don't have to put in an email address. You don't have to do anything. Download the performance-based question. Follow along with me, guys. 100% free. I want you to be able to succeed at this thing. Okay, let's go ahead and jump in now. So we're at our first performance-based question. The question reads, a client has asked you to create a visual representation of their networks using your knowledge of IP addresses. Based on their description, label each device with the correct IP address. Additionally, they require your help deciding which characteristics suit the different devices in their networks. You can use each IP address and physical characteristic as many times as you like. Each device must be given an IP address and a physical characteristic. Here are our requirements. Now, there's a lot of text here, guys. This text is going to basically be giving us the requirements that we need to put into action. I don't recommend reading through the entire text and trying to do it all at once. I really recommend trying to do it bit by bit. So I'm going to use that strategy here. If you have downloaded the performance-based question, pause the video now, try to complete it. Only come back and watch this portion of me walking you through it once you've tried that. Okay, you're going to get so much more out of this if you do it that way. I'm going to walk through it now, okay? Pause the video, do that, then come back. Here we go. So it reads, the client has two servers. The server responsible for converting IP addresses to human readable URL addresses requires a Class B public IP address, and two power PSU units should be used simultaneously to ensure uptime and availability. All right, let's stop there. That already was a lot, right? So let's break that down and see if we can apply just what that was. The server responsible for converting IP addresses to human readable URL addresses. What is that? Off the top of our heads, hopefully we should be familiar with what that is. Let's have a look. Okay, so we have one LAN over here. We have another LAN over here. Looks like a router with an SSID and another router with another SSID. And in the middle, we have two servers. We have a DNS server and a web server. So that first set of instructions is asking about one of these servers. Remember what it said. The server responsible for converting IP addresses into human readable URL addresses. Which one of these two servers does that? It is absolutely right. I feel a little like Dora the Explorer here. The DNS server is the one that does that. So this is going to be the first one we're focusing on because this is the first one that they are giving us information on. So let's go back. We're going to have to go back to the previous page, just like you might have to on your real exam, and see what they want from us. So that DNS server requires a Class B public IP address. Okay. Let's just go there. Class B public IP address. Have a look at these IP addresses. In the top left, can you find a Class B public IP address? Hopefully you were able to do that, guys. Hopefully you've located maybe a couple of Class B public IP addresses. If you weren't, This is pretty much where our knowledge of our IP address table starts to come in. So if you didn't have that, if you weren't able to get that, hopefully you have some sort of resource you can go to where you can memorize this, all right? So we're going to go to exam objective 2.6, I believe it is. Yes, and it talks about internet protocol addressing, IP addressing. So when we go there, that is the section that we're going to find our IP address table. This is the table you need to be very familiar with. Okay, so here, class B, public address is what we're looking for these servers. So that is going to be any address between the range of 128.0.0.0 to 191. The maximum, right? Excluding the private address ranges. So the private address ranges, as outlined here, are 172.16.0.0 through to 172.31 maximum ranges. Okay, so any IP address between 128 and 191 can be used so long as it does not fall within those private address ranges. So with that knowledge, let's go back and take a look. Can we find any that fall within those ranges here? Looking for anywhere between 128 and 191. 128 and 191. Have you found any? Yes, we have. Again, a little bit like Dora the Explorer. 128.49.51 is going to be our Class B public IP address that we can use for that DNS server. Okay, the next set of requirements that they gave us was, or is, let's go back and have a read. We've given a public Class B IP address, but they also need two PSU units, or PSUs, should be used simultaneously to ensure uptime and availability. What does that mean? Well, let's look at our physical characteristic options. Hopefully we already know off the top of our head what that's referring to, but it's not a SODIMM, is it? Because SODIMM is the RAM used in mobile devices, laptops. DIMM is RAM used in desktops. Multi-socket motherboard is a motherboard that allows you to use more than one CPU. OLED is a type of display. Redundant power supply. That's the one, guys. That's the one. Remember, redundant power supply is the configuration where you have two power supplies plugged in simultaneously and they're hot swappable. So if one comes out or one fails, the other one will take over 100% of the load, meaning that if one of your power supplies fails, that's okay because you have another backup power supply. Okay, that is what we were looking for there. Now we've done our first server. We still have a lot to go, but let's keep walking through this and have a look at the next piece of information. It's overwhelming, but if we do it bit by bit, it's a lot less scary, okay? The next bit says, the server responsible for hosting websites also requires a Class B public IP address. Okay, so we just need another Class B public IP address. Remember those ranges, 128 to 191, excluding the private address ranges. 128 to 191. Hopefully you found one. Here, that's the one. 187.29.104.1. Now guys, these are interchangeable. These two are both Class B public IP addresses. Insofar as I'm concerned, these, if you put this IP address over here or this one over here, you'd be getting one mark, in my mind, either way, because that is meeting the criteria. I can't say exactly how they score it, but for me, that would be you getting one mark. Those two are interchangeable because they both meet the same criteria. Let's keep reading and see what else we have to do. It says, additionally, it requires the capability to utilize multiple CPUs. All right, so which one of these physical characteristics allows you to utilize multiple CPUs? It's going to be, I know you've already attempted this, so I'm not going to take it too slow. Multi-socket motherboard, right? A multi-socket motherboard is a motherboard that has multiple CPU sockets, okay? So hopefully we got that one right. Now, let's keep reading through the criteria. You can see, guys, it's very overwhelming, but if you stick to it bit by bit, it's actually not too scary. The next section says, the router with the SSID, I am the LAN, requires a Class A IP address that is visible and accessible over the internet from outside of the LAN. What does that mean? Accessible over the internet from outside the LAN. That's a public IP address, isn't it? It means it's a public IP address because you have private IP addresses and public. Public are accessible from outside of that LAN, but private are only accessible from inside the LAN, right? So we need a public class A IP address for the router with the SSID, I am the LAN. Okay, let's go back to our screen now. Again, I know it's tedious. Here's the SSID, I am the LAN, a public class A IP address. Have a look for that. Without referring to the table. You should be able to locate it without referring to the table. If we bring it up, that table is going to show us a public class A IP address is anywhere from 0 to 126. Okay, 0 to 126. Remembering that we need to exclude anything in the 10 range because those are the private IP addresses within the class A range. So anything from 0 to 126 that is not 10. Okay, 0 to 126, that is not 10. That's right, there's only one that meets this criteria, guys. That is going to be here, 97.142.234.24. That is the only one there that meets that specific criteria. Now, we've got another IP address here under the router. Why would we have another IP address? Well, because remember, routers generally have a public IP address and a private IP address. They need an IP address that is accessible from outside the LAN, that they send all of your data outside into the world through, and the rest of the world can see it, but they also have a private IP address that is only seen by those inside that LAN, okay? If this desktop or this phone needs to access this router, they will be using a private IP address, not this public one, but the private one. So let's keep reading, see what we have to do next. It says, this router also requires a Class A IP address that is only accessible from inside the LAN. Okay, so we need a private Class A IP address. Remember those ranges, guys. What's the private address range for the Class A range of IP addresses? Let's bring it up. It's right here. It's anywhere in the 10 range. Class A private is 10. Okay, so which one should we have for our router? We have 10.134.43.1, 10.134.43.2, the same .3. The router, guys, is generally going to be the one that ends in .1. Okay, so it's going to end in .1. Now, the reason being is that's generally the default gateway. It is the first device on that network, so it's generally given the IP address .1. Right now, if I bring up my command prompt, if I bring that up, open up, oh, I've opened up like 3. Okay, and I type in ipconfig, and I look for my default gateway, which is right here. See that? Look at the address, 192.168.1.1. So I'm on the network, 192.168.1, and the router is on that network, and its device address is 1. It's generally 1 for routers, okay? So we've got a public IP address, we've got a private IP address. Let's keep reading to see what we have to do. The other devices within this LAN also require a private Class A IP address. All right, so within this LAN that we're just working in, these two devices need a private Class A IP address. Now, we've got one here. It's going to be that same network, guys. These specific ones, whether it ends in 2 or 3, doesn't matter. We just have to make sure it's a private Class A IP address, and it's easy because we already know the network that it belongs to. They should all have 10.134.43 as the network because that's the network, that's the private IP address of the router. So that gives us away the rest of it, right? We could either try to look and see, okay, which one technically fits into the Class A private IP address range, or we could just see, okay, we know they're going to be on this same LAN, on this same network, so the only number that's going to change is the last one. Now, whether you put the desktop as 0.2 or as 0.3, doesn't matter. These two are interchangeable. If you put these in either of those positions, that's a mark. So if you put 0.2 down here for the phone, that's same. It's still going to be correct, absolutely. So guys, that's that, right? Let's keep on reading. We're almost there. Finally, The router with the SSID boxing is great requires a public Class C IP address and a private Class C IP address. Ooh, okay. So the SSID boxing is great, needs a public and private Class C IP address. Do you remember the range for the public Class C IP addresses? Try to have a think. Try to see if you can find it. I'm going to help you out in a second. Here we go. The Class C public addresses. You should have a table like this, guys, that's readily accessible. Class C public addresses is anywhere from 192 to 223, with the exception of 192.168. Okay, that is the private address ranges. So anywhere from 192 to 223, but just making sure for public, which is what we're looking for, that it doesn't have 192.168, because that will make it private. All right. Hopefully we caught that. So let's have a look. Do any of these meet that criteria? 192.168. Okay, that's a private Class C IP address. 192.100. Oh, there we go. That's going to be it, right? We should have hopefully immediately grabbed onto that as a public address. Now it also needs a private IP address. All right, let's find a private one. Well, we know private is 192.168, but which one makes the most sense for a router? Okay, if we're on the network 192.168.5, is the router going to be 5.3, 5.4, 5.2, or 5.1? Which one makes more sense? We just talked about it before. It's going to be the one that is ending in 1. Generally, your router is going to end in 1 because it's that first device on the network as the default gateway. All right, so that's what we're looking for there. Now, look how close we are to being finished, guys. You're killing this performance-based question. And remember, if you've been getting some of this wrong, that's okay. You're new to this stuff. You're just starting to study it. It takes some time. Honestly, unless you've gone through the multiple choice questions already broken down by exam objective, I don't expect you to be doing well here at all because you haven't even covered the content at its core level. So you're really jumping ahead of the game here if you haven't completed multiple choice questions broken down on every exam objective, right? But that aside, I'm just saying, don't feel bad if you're not doing too great. Now, because there's always room to improve, right? That's why we're here, to improve, to get better. Keep going. You will smash this exam, I promise you. Now, here we go. It says, yes, we've given a private Class C IP address. The next set of instructions is, the TV utilizes an advanced display type in which pixels produce their own light source. Okay, so we've got a TV in this LAN. Now it looks like we're talking about physical characteristics. Which one of these is a display type where a pixel creates its own light source? You got it. This one's pretty easy, guys. It is OLED, OLED. OLED displays are dissimilar to LCD displays in that LCD displays need a backlight to light up the screen, which is why it's hard to get a true black because there's always a little bit of light coming through. But with OLED displays, the pixel itself emits its own light. So if that pixel stops emitting light, you will get a true black. Right? So the correct one there was OLED. We still don't have the IP address, but hopefully we can almost guess what these three are going to be because there's only 3 left now, right? We've done process of elimination and we can see they all belong to the same network. This TV, along with all other devices within this LAN, require a private Class C IP address. Okay, now if we go here, we only have 3 left and they are all private Class C IP addresses, so it doesn't matter where you put them. It does not matter where you put them. You can put them anywhere here, all right? But we've run into a dilemma here, guys. The dilemma is we still have 1, 2, 3, 4 unused slots for the physical characteristics. But the instructions specifically said each device must be given an IP address and a physical characteristic. But we've used all the instructions. So that means now we are going to have to rely on our knowledge and do some problem solving here. Okay, there's no more information for us to look at. So let's go to the laptop. Which of the following, with no additional information, can we certainly say is true of a laptop? ARM, or Advanced RISC Machine, OLED, DIMM, SODIMM. That's right. It's SODIMM, guys. We know laptops must use SODIMM. The type of RAM that is always used in laptops is SODIMM. Okay, what about this desktop? They don't use SODIMM, they use DIMM. That is true of all desktops, okay? You don't need any information to read through to get that one. Desktop over here, well, the instructions say that you can use each physical characteristic as many times as you like. So we're going to go ahead and use DIMM over here for this desktop as well. And finally, the phone. We're going to use Advanced RISC Machine. Guys, hopefully you're semi-familiar with what an advanced RISC machine is, but if you're not, let's go ahead and take a quick look. An advanced RISC machine refers to a reduced instruction set computer machine. An ARM is a processor architecture designed for speed and efficiency while minimizing power usage. It is widely adopted in mobile devices and Internet of Things applications. All right, so they are designed specifically for speed and efficiency for low power and heat usage, and they're generally used in mobile and Internet of Things devices. So guys, we are working with a mobile here, a phone, which is going to be using that advanced RISC machine architecture, that reduced instruction set architecture to try to maintain that battery life and be as efficient and effective as possible with the small space that it has. And guys, this is what our final product looks like. We've given every device an IP address and every device a physical characteristic. Fantastic work, guys. You've done really good. And even if you didn't get all that done, it's a learning process, right? So we're learning together. Now, hopefully you guys enjoyed this practice quiz. If you did, this is just a snippet of what is available in my Ultimate Learning Guide. So in my Ultimate Learning Guide, you get the following. You get your notes and practice questions broken down completely by exam objective, right? So that's that thing that I've been pulling up. I can pull this up and I can go over here and I can go to any exam objective I want, open it up. It'll give me every specific exam objective. If I open that up, it'll give me all the dot points. I can even go into the sub dot points and go ahead and snap to it and have a look here. And if I really want, I can go ahead, go to the bottom of that exam objective, scroll down. I have a bunch of open-ended questions, a bunch of answers to those, and finally the multiple choice questions, making sure you're covering all of the content in that section. And I've got that for every single exam objective. You can just keep scrolling, guys. Scroll, right? It's all there broken down by exam objective. So you get those notes and practice questions. You also get 11 performance-based questions. So at the very end of my learning guide here, you've got your performance-based questions, and you've got a whole bunch here, right? I'm not going to slow down because otherwise you'll get them all for free. So there you go. You've got them all in there. Here's the performance-based questions. I'm going to go ahead, minimize that bad boy. And you also get 3 practice exams too. I basically take all those multiple choice questions and I put them into a practice exam format. So you get 3 randomized practice exams with performance-based questions in each as well. And then you also get a spreadsheet to track your progress. You also get a video where I show you how to study with multiple choice questions. You also get a video where I show you how to use free AI tools to 10 times your learning. You also get a video on how to ace multiple choice questions. All of that for a pretty reasonable price. So you can go ahead, click the link in the description below or in the pinned comment if you want to grab that to like hyper speed your learning. Otherwise, guys, I'm going to keep putting these out for completely free, and I'm going to make sure I do finish my free A+ course as well. So look, if you want, you can check out my free course for the A+ 1201, which has practice questions in each episode or lesson, or you can just go ahead and get the learning guide if you want to have access to pretty much everything you need in a really organized way. So guys, go ahead, keep doing what you're doing, keep studying, and I'll see you in the next one. All right? See you guys.